Okay, so tonight I am going to be presenting with regards to just a few tips, and then also making sure that those of you who are planning for quarter two are ready and set and doing all the things that you need to do in advance. Now, I'll be honest, really, this should have been done already. If you're, someone who hasn't already planned for quarter two, you should have really been planning for this already. But I am going to make sure that I get you clued up on what you need to do. I'm also going to make sure that I undo any kind of myths you've told yourself about why you can't sell or why you can't actually organize your marketing, because it's so important that more of us get clearer on what we need to do, what goes into a marketing plan. So I'm going to be talking about that this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you're watching from. And I am also live on my YouTube, which is fantastic. Something I've been doing more regularly. And so if you're with me on YouTube, you can say hi, hi. And if you're not with me on YouTube, that's okay. I am going to make sure that I locate my other phone and get started. So let's talk. Where are you at now, right now in your business? Let us talk. Let us talk about where you're at right now. Because I feel like a lot of us are a little bit challenged with knowing what to do, knowing how to show up, knowing where we need to be and where we need to position ourselves, understanding our audience, but most importantly, like selling. A lot of us are challenged with that. So let's make sure that before the next quarter actually kicks in a few days' time, that you are ready, to sell, that you are ready to present your offers, that you're ready to actually connect with people, and that you're ready to actually do the work. And the only way you can do that is if you've got a plan. That's the only way you're going to be able to get anything done, in my opinion. For many of you that are distracted, easily distracted, you need a plan. We need to make sure you've got a plan. Okay? So let's get into this. Let us think about where you're at right now. If there's one thing you want to do better, if there's one thing that you want to work on, let me know that via the comments. You can share with me if there's something you want to do better, if there's something you want to work on. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that you are clear of your goals. Yeah, we want to write those down. We want to make sure you are clear of your goals, what it is you're doing, why you've chosen to do things in that way. Let's make sure you've got some clear goals. What's the target you want to hit, for example, before the end of June? Have you got a target? And if you haven't, definitely make sure that you watch my YouTube video all about setting sales targets, all about getting clear on, what you want to sell by when, and get honest with yourself. Be really honest, because if you don't have the resources that you need to actually achieve what you want and get the results that you want, you're going to struggle and feel flustered and potentially overwhelmed. So set that goal today, even if that goal changes. Now, I put out a question on LinkedIn earlier on, and I was asking my connections on LinkedIn to let me know what their view is of planning, because actually quite a lot of people don't plan, and that's okay. If you don't plan and you don't enjoy planning, and you've got along fine, your sales are still coming in and you're not planning, that is absolutely fine. I'm not here trying to preach about planning if planning isn't your thing. However, what I would say is, if you're someone who actually doesn't do so well and isn't planning, that's where we need to have this conversation. So let's make sure that you're clear on what you're doing when it comes to plans, and let's make sure also that you're setting targets. The real benefit of planning, if I'm honest with you, is that it gives you that clarity and focus that you might be lacking to keep you on track. Planning gives you the clarity and focus that you might need to keep you on track. So if you're someone who at the moment is feeling very flustered, not really sure what you should be doing when, which I know is something that a lot of business owners say to me when they first come to work with me. Or if you've got lots of products and services, but you're not sure how to promote them, how to market them, how to show up with them and offer them, then that's a challenge, isn't it? If you want your business to grow, that's something that we need to look at, and potentially something that we need to admit needs work. Okay, so let's make sure that we're being honest here about what we need to do to actually improve our results. Okay, so set your goals and make sure you're clear. What is it you want to achieve and by when? Now, I'm saying, and this is just a guideline, it's probably best for you to say that by the end of June, you want to achieve certain results. By the end of June. That way, you're giving yourself a longer lead-in time. Now, I have spoken to various people that are doing lots of different things over the next few weeks. I've got clients that are doing events. I've got clients that are doing summer fairs. I've got clients that are launching their website. I've got clients that are launching community groups and doing things offline and events and stuff. But they have a decent amount of time. They've been planning for a little while on those things. If you're listening into this now or you're watching this and you're thinking, my goodness me, I haven't given myself enough time, but I'd actually like to get some sales in April. Don't panic. As I said, I've done a whole video on this, a whole video on the simple way to set your sales target. And it's not complex. It really isn't. So I can see some of you are watching now. I would love to know if you actually plan already and what you're planning. What does that look like? What do your plans look like at the moment? Are you really clear on what's in your plan? Do you know how you want to achieve your goals, even if it doesn't necessarily happen that way? Are you clear on how you're going to get or even attempt to achieve the results that you want? Because another problem that I see is that a lot of people will actually have very ambitious goals, and actually they're probably very achievable as well. However, those goals aren't always met with actual outcomes and results because there isn't a plan backing what you've got in mind. So set your goal, whether it's launching an event, writing a magazine column, doing a press interview, booking some advertising, coordinating, a group event, whatever it is, write that down. I want you to write that down for me. And I want you to think about whether or not you've got all the resources you need to do it by the deadline that you're telling yourself you can do it by. And I also want you to be honest with yourself as well in terms of understanding, actually, if I haven't got the resources, what do I need to pull back on? What might I do differently? Who might I need to pull in to do some of this work? Because sometimes we do need to admit that, yeah, the goal's realistic, but it's ambitious because we don't have the people on the ground. We don't have the people behind us to actually help us to do this. So let's also make sure that that goal you've written down, that thing you said you want to do by the end of April, by the end of May, by the end of June, write it down with a deadline. When is it you want to achieve this thing you've just written down? When is it you want to achieve it by? And depending on when you say you want to achieve it by, the next thing you want to address is, are you actually being realistic in terms of the time you've got? Because sometimes we don't understand that the time that it takes to do the marketing is a lot of time. So we put the big mission down, we want to do all of this good stuff, but actually we don't get to execute it because we haven't been realistic about whether or not we've got capacity to do the work. And if that's you and you don't have the capacity, my advice to you is hire someone in to help you, whether that's a social media support, whether that's, that you're going to have someone come on board and help you with your marketing materials, whether that's someone doing your sponsorship. Be realistic, be honest. If you can't do it yourself, make sure that you've thought about whether or not you need help. Because I've spoken to 3 or 4 people this week on calls. And actually, I'll be really honest with you. I'm so excited because one of the people that I spoke to, although we've postponed for a longer call for next week, but one of the people that I spoke to is someone that I actually worked with last year who brought me in very last minute for a project that was a huge success. And this time she's come to me. She said, V, we've got to do some work together. I'm giving you a really long lead-in time this time because I want it to work. So you need to give me your prices and blah, blah, blah. So that's fantastic. And it actually is evidence to me that people are really now starting to get it, okay? But I know that a small amount of business owners perhaps still aren't getting it, still aren't understanding that actually there is a necessity, if you want things to go as smoothly as possible, to actually make sure that you have given yourself enough time. And the only way you're going to know that, quite frankly, is if you actually have a marketing plan, because then you can work backwards. You can decide whether or not, you are going to be able to deliver it. Yeah, because you're actually doing a little timeline, and you've said to yourself, okay, by the end of June, I want to have earned, £80,000. And by the end of June, being like 3 months away, you're then going to be looking at what you've got to do in the run up to the end of June in order for you to actually achieve those results. Right? So manage your own expectations. Manage your own expectations. So you are being mindful of, whether or not you've been honest with yourself. Because if you haven't, and if you are thinking you could do it all by yourself, and you need staff, but you haven't hired staff, or you might need some help with getting your leaflets distributed, but you haven't hired someone to do that, and you yourself don't have time, don't let it get to the end of June for you to then say, oh, I should have done it differently. Because we don't really want to have regrets, especially if you've got enough time to get this right this time around. And a lot of us in quarter 1 didn't have enough time to get it right, and therefore we didn't get it right. And some of us are kicking ourselves. Fortunately, some of the other people that I spoke to this week are actually like in admission. They're saying like, B, I realized that actually marketing isn't my strong point. Hence why I'm coming to you. Another person that I literally spoke to this evening said, look, I need a marketing expert on board with this particular project. And so therefore I am pulling you in because your name's been thrown around a little bit. And I want to bring you in on this. So there's something I'm considering at the moment. And again, with this individual, they said, look, we've got 12 weeks to do this. So for me, that's good. That's a green flag. But if you're in business and you're actually thinking about how to get better results, one of the easiest ways you can get better results is to reverse engineer almost the big idea that you've got. So for example, if you are wanting to do, £6,000 a week from now until the end of June, you've got to have a strategy and a tactical plan to help you get there. If you want to have 18 people booked onto your course every hour via your e-commerce store or via your digital program, you need to make sure that you've got things like automation set up, things like ads set up. You got to have like an onboarding process, all of that stuff, and it has to work. And some of it will require testing and tweaking. So you've got to manage your own expectations, because marketing makes sense when you have a plan. It gets overwhelming and it gets confusing when you're not planning. Okay? It gets overwhelming and confusing when you are not planning. So let's make sure you've looked at the goals. Let's make sure you've thought about the resources. And then the final point I want to share before I open the floor to questions, and if you get to watch this on the replay, you can still drop questions in the chat, is make sure you've considered your monitoring. Think through what you need to do in terms of evaluating website hits, looking at how many people have asked you questions and the type of questions they've asked you, looking at your emails that you've received, looking at the comments on your social media if you use social media mainly for your marketing, looking at your offline marketing if you did any. So how many people came to your stall? How many people bought your product or inquired about your service via your exhibition stand? How many events have you actually been to? How much did you spend to attend those events? And how much did you make back from attending those events? You've got to be looking at sales of actual products. If you've got like a few products, if you're hair care, if you're skincare, look at your inventory. What's that telling you? Every 2 weeks, what's selling? Every week, what's being requested? Because all of these things are going to help you to tweak and change and develop your marketing. Also, by asking people how they heard about you. That's a big one that a lot of people don't do. And actually, I ask this now all the time, and it's teaching me a lot. I've always asked it, but when it's what I would call someone that I would consider a newbie that I've never had any contact with, but they've just come along and they've said, right, I want to buy your course or I want to book you for one-to-one. I'm like, okay, cool. By the way, how did you hear about me? I was only reminded literally on, I think it was Wednesday night, that one of my clients that I'm working with now was recommended to me by someone else. And actually, that someone else has also recommended another person to me. And both of those people are what I would call quality clients. And I was reminded the other day And I'm constantly reminded, actually, how many people, you, me, even physical stores, forget about the online space, there are a lot of people that might be aware of your brand, but they're waiting for the moment to go into your physical store or to see you at an event and buy from you. They're waiting for that moment for when they're ready to actually come and approach you for some services or to buy your coaching program or to get your book. Readiness is everything, not just in terms of you being ready to market your business and promote your brand and start sharp with authority, but also in terms of your buyers. And the monitoring and analytics that you do should be able to tell you trends when it comes to when people are buying the most or least of a product, when it comes to your most popular product, your most popular web page, your most popular webinar, your most popular TEDx talk, whatever you're doing, you can find the answers from your analytics. And then what you do from there is you tweak your marketing based on not assumptions, but actual real facts, real results, real data. So you're now looking at, okay, going live on a Thursday, I can see is not doing so well. So therefore, I'm going to start going live on a completely different day and actually looking at the stats of my analytics. Let's say hypothetically, Monday is a really good day to go live. So then you make sure that the next month or the following weeks of activity that you do for your marketing, Monday is the day you go live. Because your stats have shown you that Thursday isn't really a popular day and that the majority of your community are active on a Monday at, let's say, 4 p.m. And you can see all of that sort of information via your analytics. If you've got the Meta for Business suite, the Meta for Business app, if you've even got LinkedIn analytics, if you've even got other social media platforms, many of them have got analytics that you can look at to help you to understand what it is you're doing and how you can improve. But if you're not going into those analytics, then what I'm saying now isn't going to make much sense to you until you've physically gone in and clicked through. So that Instagram post that you've got where it's showing you that actually, most of the people that are watching you are in Australia. So if you're coming online and saying, good morning, and it's the morning in the UK at, 8 a.m. in the morning in the UK, if most of your viewers are watching from Australia and New Zealand or Dubai, we already know the greeting that you're giving, the content that you're sharing may not resonate with them. I mean, it's not a big deal to be saying good morning when actually it's good evening or good afternoon. But what a better way to interact with your online community and show them that you actually really get them. You're in their space. You're part of their kind of world than by saying good afternoon if you know their time zone is going to be afternoon. It's little things like that that can really change the brand experience. And if you know that people are always asking you as a result of you doing promo, oh, what's your price? How much is it? Oh, where's the link? There's a few things you can do again around your marketing to make sure that you reduce those kinds of questions, to make sure that you minimize those questions. One could be something as simple as getting a frequently asked questions page over on your website. The other could be to produce content about those same topics that people are asking about. Do you see? So these are just basic things that I want you to think about. Again, this wasn't a scheduled live, so if you have questions, you can either email me or you can message via the Insight to Marketing website, or if you would like to leave a comment, you can also leave a comment. But these three areas that I'm sharing here, they're quite important, because if you don't have a plan, but you don't mind not having a plan and you don't feel overwhelmed without a plan, that's cool. But this live was for you tonight. If you don't have a plan and you're in need of one because you really do want that clarity, you do want to be sure of what you're doing, and you at least want to have a guideline of what you should be doing and when. If you're watching now and you don't have allocation of resources, or you've got some ambitious targets and you've not really thought about how you can actually improve those targets or what you might need to deliver those targets, again, set some targets, some financial goals, and look at the resources that you have to help you achieve those. And then my final point is make sure you think about your monitoring. This is going to be a big gap for a lot of you still, even halfway through the year, because many of us are running away from monitoring. Many of us are not wanting to do the kind of back office checks, But analytics is actually what's going to help you. Analytics are actually what are going to help you to understand what's working and what's not, because there's nothing more to flop you than actually doing marketing over and over again that's not working and you're expecting to see a different result. There's nothing more, there's not even anything I can think of that's more crazy than you doing the same things you were doing this time last year. The results really haven't shifted. Nothing's really improved that much. And you're still doing the same thing this year now and wanting a different result. There's nothing more bizarre than that. So if that's you, this is not to like shame anyone. This is just constructive feedback. Think about your goals, think about your resources, and think about whether or not you're actually monitoring what you're doing. Because if you're not, these are 3 areas that you definitely want to work on, if not immediately, at some point in April, if you've not already started. All right. So that was a very quick live. As I said, you can leave your questions in the chat. If you're watching live now and you've got a question, you can also leave a question in the chat. If you're too shy, you can go via my website and I'll make sure that we respond there. Insight and then the number 2 and then marketing.com. Okay. So I'll look out for your questions and comments. Let me know if this resonated with you. Let me know whether or not you feel that any of this is relevant to your journey now and where you're at. But please do think about these things. Don't go into Q2 without a plan or at least some clarity on what you need to be doing or changing or developing. And also a plan that takes on board areas of your marketing that have got gaps. Because if you don't fix the gaps, things are going to fall through the cracks, balls are going to drop, and you're also going to probably feel very, very overwhelmed. All right. So I hope that helps you. As I said, I've got videos online at the moment. They're around different things, whether it's budgeting, whether it's building your brand, whether it's integrating your social media and your marketing, whether it's marketing planning specifically. All of that is on the Insight to Marketing YouTube channel. So definitely go and take a look at that. And if you've got any questions, you can absolutely let me know. All right. Take care. Have a great evening. And yeah, look after yourselves.